Sick of getting blisters? Stop slipping and just be comfortable with Pure Grip Socks Pro. Great fit, great comfort, lots of grip, and an even better price. Available now at puregripsocks.com.
The Academy tier Mercurials, whether it's the Vapors or the Superflies, are some of the most popular football boots of 2022. So it shouldn't be much of a surprise that when it comes to indoor and turf variations, the Academy tier Mercurials are just as popular. But are they any good? Ladies and gentlemen, the Nike Zoom Mercurial Superfly 9 Academy in the turf outsole variation, also available as an indoor boot and retailing for $95, the same price as the FG model. Boots that are also available as low-cut Vapor 15s at $85, which is $10 less expensive if you don't necessarily want the collar. Compared to the FG version, obviously the outsole and midsole is different, but what's most surprising to me about these is that the upper, despite technically being the same Nike skin mesh-based synthetic, feels significantly softer and significantly more pliable, making this not necessarily just a viable option if you're on a budget, but honestly, if you're just looking for a really nice pair of Mercurials in indoor or turf form, you don't have to spend a lot of money to get something really, really good. I was really impressed with the turf version of the Vapor 15 Pro, but honestly, after trying these out, you might be better off saving your money and going for the Academy tier version instead. We're gonna talk about what makes these so good, how they differ from the FG models, and of course, how they fit and feel on feet. So if you're interested in learning more, please stick around, and if you are interested in a pair for yourself, you can pick them up below their normal retail price by way of some exclusive SR4U coupon codes by checking out the first link down below. You guys have requested more indoor and turf reviews on the channel. Support this video with a like if you want to continue seeing that happen. And of course, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you don't miss out on my reviews of all the latest football boots of 2022. So starting off with the upper, I really felt like this combination of Nike skin with a mesh base as well as the internal speed cage that actually carries all the way into the top end elite model. It's nice to see trickle down features in the Academy from the top end version. I thought that this year they made this material feel significantly more premium and much more Mercurial-like compared to past year's Academy tier Mercs, which honestly looked like Mercurials but didn't really fit or feel like them. However, when it comes to this indoor or turf variation, this is thinner, it's more pliable, and honestly feels almost as good as what you're going to find on a top-end elite FG model. Of course, you can't get an elite turf or indoor variation. Nike doesn't make that anymore, but considering you can get these for $95 or even $85 if you opt for the low-cut Vapor variation, it's really, really impressive. Super thin, no extra padding, so you're getting that premium barefoot feel, and I think the shape that they've gone for is still very Mercurial-esque in terms of giving you that nice tight wrap. Of course, on the Superfly variation, you get a one-piece enclosure, a nice deep central lacing system, and that does extend into what is admittedly kind of like a really cheap collar. The material they've used here I don't think looks particularly good. It's not really bad in terms of feel. Honestly, I think I'd prefer the low-cut Vapor variation. It would have a slightly different construction in the heel as well, but the fit is fine, and honestly, for a turf boot, if you like to have that kind of higher mid-cut collar to prevent rubber pellets from getting inside of the football boots, I definitely see a good reason why to pick the Superfly over the Vapor for that extra $10. All in all though, considering that these are under $100 at full retail, you are very much getting what feels like a relatively high-end Mercurial experience, and for that, I can only applaud Nike. At the rear, you'll find a solid internal plastic heel counter. The lining material is very heavily padded and is kind of like this soft mesh, which is admittedly kind of on the cheaper side, but feels very comfortable, and there's no issues with slippage either, which again, something I can really appreciate. And then the insole is fully removable, and again, kind of cheaper than what I would expect for $100, but honestly, I've seen significantly worse. It is a flat piece of foam that's been cut to shape, so it's not 3D molded like you'll see in something higher end, and it just has a mesh liner on the surface made from a single layer of this gray foam. Again, nothing spectacular, but being that this is a turf boot, most of your cushion is actually going to be coming from the plain surface that you use them on. Speaking of cushion, you are going to find that there is a foam midsole that runs from the heel kind of into the base of the forefoot, because the toe box and front side of the forefoot area is pretty much just straight rubber. You're sitting on top of that insole and not much else. So it has a very flexible feel. And they have also incorporated a heel air zoom unit, which is admittedly very small and admittedly not very noticeable, but it's something that you get that is kind of a carryover feature element of the Mercurial generation this time around, with of course the Giant Air branding. Keep in mind though that this feels absolutely nothing like what you're going to find on the Elite models in the FG Mercurial range. And then as far as the Turf outsole is concerned, again, also available as an indoor model, the Turf outsole features kind of like bladed shaped nubs. They're almost like little ovals. They span the entire bottom of the foot. You have a nice tall rubber lip in the forefoot and toe box area for the sake of durability. And as I've said many times before when reviewing turf boots, they pretty much all perform the same in terms of overall traction. If you're playing on artificial grass with the rubber pellets, this isn't going to provide the same bite as something like an FG or an AG stud would provide. I don't recommend wearing FG studs on AG for the record though, but if you want something that feels relatively close to the ground, isn't going to be too clingy, and still gives you that freedom to twist and pivot, maybe you just struggle with discomfort with stud pressure and stuff like that, something with a Turf outsole, while again not as aggressive, is still going to provide adequate traction for the vast majority of people. And honestly, it's a really solid outsole midsole, again, for the $95 price tag. Which brings us to the weight, where you have to keep in mind that these are turf boots and there's a significant amount of what is admittedly pretty heavy rubber across the bottom of the foot. But nonetheless, in a size 10 US, you can see that the Superfly 9 Academy in turf weighs in at 9.7 ounces, the equivalent of 275 grams, which as far as turf boots go, is actually slightly on the lighter side of things. Anything under 10 ounces is pretty impressive. And again, considering this is a budget-friendly model, there's not much to complain about here. On feet, I am incredibly impressed with the Superfly 9 Academy in turf here. This is, in my opinion, the most comfortable variant of the 2022 generation of Mercurials that I've had on my feet. The upper feels like a well broken in variation of the Flyknit upper from the Superfly 4. For those that were big fans of those, there is a lot to like about these. This upper, like I said, feels like it could be on a high-end pair of football boots. I don't know why it's different from the regular FG model, but it is. The shaping of the boot, I think they got just right. They're definitely not as tight fitting as what you're going to find from some of the FG models, and I think a lot of that is also down to the fact that this upper isn't quite as structured. It has a little bit more give to it, which I think makes for much more of a comfortable feel and is definitely my preference. But again, preferences are definitely different from person to person. I think the feel of the midsole is nice and low profile. There's definitely a little bit of additional cushion through the heel, especially with that zoom unit, but it's a very subtle thing. You almost have to feel for it in order to notice it. And despite me not really being a big fan of these Academy tier mid-cut models, I would prefer the Vapor over the Superfly. I don't really have any issues with heel lockdown. I don't have any issues with the depth of the heel. I think everything actually feels really, really good. From a width perspective, these are going to be suitable for most people. Obviously, they're still Mercs. They're going to have a tighter overall fit. So if you have super wide feet, maybe not the best option, but for most people, these should work out just fine. And I'm wearing these in a size 10 US, which is typically what I'll wear in indoor and turf models, half a size bigger than FG boots. And that's typically because of the rubber lip that goes around the toe box area. It just doesn't allow for the same room in the front part of the upper as a normal football boot would have. So for me, I could get away with wearing them in my usual size 9.5 US, but half a size up seemed to work out a little bit better. So for most people, I would probably recommend doing the same, but it ultimately is very much a personal preference thing. So in conclusion, if you currently play in FG, AG, or SG Mercurials, whether it's the Vapor 15 or the Superfly 9, and you really like the fit and feel of those football boots, if you are on the market for something with an indoor or turf outsole, don't go for the Pro, save your money, and opt for something in the Academy tier, whether it's the Superfly 9 or the Vapor 15. Honestly, this is going to give you 90% of the experience in terms of fit as well as feel for the ball that you'll get from $250 plus Mercurials.